Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Helping Friendly podcast. I'm Megan. I'm here with RJ and Jonathan, and our special friend is back. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Megan. Hi, RJ. Hi, Jonathan. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Great.
I'm
Thrilled to
just,
see you here.
yeah, all the smiles. We're trying to keep our faces okay. We're just so happy, Brian, that you're here. It's nice to hear your voice. It's great to see your face. And we're so happy you're here today to talk to us about 12-10-94. But before we get into that, RJ, we had a lot of fun last night.
Yeah, it was great. We had Osiris live at the Ardmore Music Hall. We had an amazing band. These guys put on a show that I think we described it as sort of playing in the style of Fish 97, and it delivered on that. We had a conversation up front, Megan and Benji and Tom and I, about 97, and yeah, this band was great. There were great vibes. Everyone had a blast. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, it was so great. We had a really nice conversation, like you were saying, RJ, at the beginning. And it was funny to ask Benji a question that was anyone else would have answered in this very linear, short way. And Benji just went on this epic tale, and it was just so awesome, and somehow referenced everything amazing in this answer. And then we got to hear some really great stories from Tom too. So it was a really special night for me and just really fun and great crowd. So thanks everyone who came out. It was so much fun dancing. I got to see Benji Eisen's dance moves in person. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Like
Thanks, Megan, for moderating and interviewing and being part of that. It was great.
Yeah, it was really fun. I'm pretty tired today because I had a really rough drive back from Philly this morning at 6 a.m. I would not advise that.
Yeah.
I would definitely advise taking the train. That would have been a lot smarter.
That's crazy.
But it's okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for coming out and for streaming it. Okay, so Brian, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I've missed you all a lot. Every time I listen to Fish, I'm like, who am I going to talk about this with? And then I think about all of you guys. And so I'm really, really glad to be back here and talking about this show with you guys. I had not listened to this show before this weekend. It's like one of the few fall 94 shows I'd never listened to. So this was all brand new to my ears and kind of made me think about the end of fall 94 in a different way. I'm excited to talk about it.
Incredible.
Well, Brian, I want you to know that if you are listening to Fish and there isn't a podcast coming up that you can join, you can always just call me and talk about it. It's fine.
And we can just go deep. This is a good call. Yeah. This is a very good call. I spent a lot of the last couple of months at this open space park just north of where I live with my two dogs, listening to podcasts about modern China. So that's where my headspace was at the last couple of months, which has been, slightly different than Fish, but, still there's layers, there's depths, there's theories, there's lots of ideas about things that you probably are wrong about. And that, really brings you back to the experience of being a Fish fan and being a Fish podcaster.
Only you could make a connection between modern China and all 94 Fish. So thank you, Brian. We've missed you.
Fish fans can be pretty dictatorial, actually. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
You just get replaced. You get canceled from the party. Yeah, no, it's I'm glad to be back with you guys, though.
It's really great to have you back. Megan, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about 12-10-94 from the Civic Auditorium in Santa Monica, California. And this is the end of the Fall 94 tour.
Yeah,
so this is their last show of this tour, which is crazy.
It's amazing. I'm surprised you haven't heard it before, Brian, before this, because this is, it has one of my favorite endings of any Fish show. That's partially why I love this show. But I mean, this is 94. Jonathan, you saw your first show on this tour, right? A couple months before?
Yeah, like right at the beginning of this tour.
We've talked about this a lot. You did too on Fall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we talked about this a lot on Undermine, especially as we got into those 94 shows, including the best one that Jonathan was a guest for. Brian, this is a pretty monumental year for Fish, but as you were listening to this show for the first time, what's the context here for you, just in terms of the end of this pretty big year?
I was thinking about it a lot just in terms of like where the band is at this point in time. And, we talked at the start of this year, we did a big episode about the making of Hoist and how much pressure was put on that album and on the album rollout, and the fact that so much of the spring tour, they were pushing these songs from Hoist. And it really felt like this moment of, all right, we've built up this following. Can we make this something that leads to somewhat of a pop crossover around the same time that Blues Traveler, Dave Matthews Band are making these pop crossovers? Can we still be this band that we are, but have some pop cultural appeal? I think we'd all agree that that never really happened. Although I swear by the Down with Disease video. And the next year, the band is going to only grow in terms of like the venues that they can play and in terms of the amount of crowds that they can draw in. The ability for like Phish to become just like second nature band name in pop culture probably isn't ever really going to happen going beyond this point. But there's at the same time, while that's not necessarily happening the way that I think that they had initially planned it out or envisioned it, they're developing and they're evolving musically at like almost a faster rate than they would have commercially. And if you think about this tour, this is really where they jump off the deep end. All these experimentations that have happened in 93 and in spring 94, think about the Bomb Factory, think about aspects of August 93. It's all kind of blown wide open with, the Bangor Tweezer, the Minneapolis David Bowie, the Bozeman Tweezer. There's a Simple from a couple shows before this that goes just out of, completely out of this world. And so they're at this point where like they've accomplished so much, but then you think about the next year to 2 years of their career, and that evolution is only going to continue. And that evolution is only going to continue to blossom to where, RJ, you're talking so much about fall 1997 over on Undermine right now. So they're at this very interesting point where like they're still kind of a small band. They're still kind of like a secret, but they're evolving and they're growing on like a show by show basis.
Also really interesting. Oh, go ahead, Jonathan. I was just going to add really quickly that funny
Go
that
ahead.
Dave Matthews Band opens up for them at this show too, right?
Right.
Because they are having some commercial success more than Phish, but then they're the opening act at this show. Just interesting.
This is that West Coast effect for both the
Mhm.
groups, right? So they can
Totally.
double up
Yeah,
and
that's true.
sell this room. But I was going to mention that as well. But also you raised that point about them trying to develop that commercial cachet, if you will, that commercial appeal. And if they had succeeded in that, I wonder if they would have accomplished the sort of growth that they did in the following year, given that at least a good chunk of that growth is certainly attributed to Deadheads moving over and
Yeah.
so forth, which
Yeah.
might not have happened had they been, kind of co-opted by the media the way Dave Matthews and Blues Traveler had. Because those bands, I mean, Dave Matthews definitely kept growing through that time frame, but they grew differently. And I wonder how that would have gone for Phish. We don't have to know, though, fortunately, because we have this band instead.
Yeah, maybe they would have been too much of sellouts to get the Deadheads over there.
That's what I'm saying.
It would have changed so much, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It really would have changed their trajectory. That's fascinating.
Forget that. We're going on Mo Tour.
Totally.
Well, I mean, you do wonder in a sense, because like
Mhm.
a lot of the music that they play in the fall, and then especially when they come back in June, post Surrender to the Air, the Blob sessions, they're going to play music that we've talked about a lot. It's really challenging. It's not immediately appealing from a listening standpoint. Like you have to really sit with it and absorb it and try to rationalize, like, why is this music being played the way that it's being played? Why is it so loud? Why is it so angular? Why is it so kind of demented in areas? And unless you're someone like, I think, Jonathan, you share my affection for Summer 95 in a lot of cases. Like I love when they go in that direction. If you don't love it, it presents a ton of challenges from like a I'm going to pay $30 or whatever it is to go out to this concert and try to enjoy myself. Why is this band basically yelling at me for 45 minutes out of this like 3-minute long song called Tweezer? All of that stuff is obviously going to lead to larger successes for the band. And they're kind of right in the middle of testing the waters. And we'll get to this, but like one of the things I found fascinating about this show is it really moves in the opposite direction of that. This show is, I wrote my first note of it about this show was the joyful clarity of 1994 Phish. Like there's nothing to disturb you from the majority of this show. This show is just like, it's like Phish as a bell. It's clear, it's beautiful, it's fun, it's energetic, and like there's something really pure about that.
This is exactly what I think of when I think of Phish. I was listening to this today and I was like, this is what Phish sounds like in my brain. Now, sometimes it sounds like that other stuff, but that's me. But this is that 1994. It's not even as deep as the live one, except for, one song that is on a live one from the show. And it's just perfect.
I think that's also because, Jonathan, for you and I, this is like when we first saw them. So for me, I
Right.
felt the exact same way. Whenever I listen to Fall 94, I'm like, that's Phish. That's who I fell in love with. Like, that's the band that I saw that changed everything for me. Like, that's the energy, that's the tightness, that's the composition, that's the humor, that's the like engagement with the audience. Those are the things that they're just like nailing in this tour. And it's definitely in the show too. You can hear that for sure. It's silly, it's sharp, it's tight, it's fast. Yeah, I agree.
It's got everything but 40-minute jam.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in between October 7th and December 10th, by my count, they played 48 shows basically in like 9 weeks, which makes no sense whatsoever. They played like, I mean, that's a lot of shows in a very short period of time.
Just
Pretty
over
wild.
five shows a week, right?
Yeah, I mean it seemed like
A
they
lot
were
of work.
playing every day. And then obviously the September, I mean the October shows happen and there's some improv and there's stuff in those shows, including the ones that you guys saw. But then Halloween happens, and then like the 2 days after Halloween, they go and play one of the best tweezers of all time, like in Maine, and then they just kind of keep pushing the improv throughout November. But I just don't. I mean, I can't believe that they did this huge Halloween show and covered the entire White Album, and then like just kept pushing forward and got even better. I mean, I just can't believe they didn't die of exhaustion. It's insane.
They kind of learned their lesson a year later and take a 10-day break following Halloween in Chicago, where it's like, all right, we put in all this work to learn this new album. We just played this 3-set show. We kind of deserve, a week and a half off to just recharge, get the inspiration back for something other than the Who in 95, the Beatles in 94. But yeah, I think they maybe took a week off in this tour. I don't know. I don't have the dates up in front of me, but there was a slight break before the Kent State shows, if I recall correctly.
It was like around Thanksgiving or whatever, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it Thanksgiving?
The whole day.
Yeah. There was a little bit of a break. Yeah.
Yeah, from 11/4 to 11/12, they didn't play any shows. So they played those shows right after, which is cool because you get the banger tweezer effect. But then you get like a slight little off the road, and then they come right back, and that 11/12 show was officially released. It's got an amazing Down with Disease. It's got one of the best Harry Hoods ever played. It's just a killer show that kind of feels run of the mill of November, December 1994 in the best way possible.
Yeah, my first show was 2 days later on the 14th. And
Nice.
yeah, they were just firing in DeVos Hall, Grand Rapids.
Yeah. It's a
I mean,
good
they
show.
were just firing like on all cylinders. And I think they've been doing that for like 2 years at this point, playing like insane, huge tours, just epic tours. So I feel like they were used to it. And also they have to be super energized. I mean, they're heading towards headlining MSG, right? At the end of the month.
That's another thing I was thinking about, just in terms of like the context of where this show is they're about to play MSG 3 weeks from now, but then they're kind of going to take their first extended break I think this is 1995 will be the first spring since 1988 where they haven't gone out on the road for a spring tour. They're just
Wow.
going to be
Right.
at home, writing songs,
In the studio.
recording in the
Yeah.
studio,
And in the
recording
studio.
Billy
So-
Breathes. And then like 1995, it's not like that's going to be a light year. They're going to play a fall tour that goes from September into December. I don't know. It's just it's an interesting point for them where like they've achieved so much. They're about to take a very well earned kind of first extended break here, unless you count fall 1993. But they were spending so much time recording Rift during that period in time, or recording Hoist, excuse me. But like they're going to take this kind of time off. Trey's going to have a kid. Rather, Sue's going to have a kid. Trey's going to be there and be a father for the child. But you know, and then they'll come back and yeah, right, exactly. And then they'll come back in the summer, and you know they'll continue to build upon all this craziness that they found throughout the fall.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So what do you guys think as a closer? How do you feel like this show does?
I think it's great. Like, as I said, it's got kind of everything you want and expect from this band at this time, except for maybe a big long jam. But the set list is good, the performance is good, the stash is outstanding. Even though it's still like 11 minutes, you know, it's not. But that's 94. I did another podcast recently about 1994 stashes, and you know they completely slayed this song throughout the year, and they managed to do it in very little time. Very efficient. It's got antics. It's got you know, Beatles covers, Little Fishman. Okay, they're the same thing in this case, and I mean, what more do you want? I think it's an outstanding closer to the tour.
I think it's interesting. I think you're right. I think it's got everything but that 20-minute jam, and like that 20-minute jam is the but for the era and for the tour. But I think something that you were saying earlier, Jonathan, that really struck me when I was listening to this, like, so my first tape was 11/17/1994, and the first set of that show is good. I mean, it's got a really cool four bins, but like outside of the four bins Vibrational Life, it's just a fall 1994 set one. And that's not in any sort of way a knock on it. Like, they were at a point in their career where they could just play a show like this, where we're just going to play the songs and we're just going to play them really well, and they're going to have a lot of energy, and they may not completely go off the rails, and it's going to be awesome to listen to. There was no point where I was listening to the show yesterday and I wasn't really enjoying myself, and I wasn't just blown away by the musicianship. My biggest takeaway was this feels like a show for the band and their crew more so than for the audience. They've already given the audience everything the audience could ever want over the last 9 weeks or however long they've been on tour. They've already tested themselves. They've already tested the audience's patience. They played the entire White Album with 2 other sets of Fish around it. There's so many killer shows.
They had that whole run with Jeff Mosier.
They did, yeah,
the bluegrass stuff.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Yeah, they're doing the like acoustic mini sets.
There's the 2 shows that they released like 15 years ago from 11/30 and 12/1 that are just absolutely insane, and it's like they dropped LSD on the CDs that you got back then, and like your just brain exploded when you listen to this, like 25-minute Antelope, crazy segues, like a My Sweet One jam, like it's just insanity. This show doesn't feel like they're trying to lay everything out on the line. It feels like a band that is really satisfied at the end of the tour. They want to play one final show, so they play a lot of stuff that is pretty reliable. Nothing really challenges them. Nothing really goes off into the danger zone outside of, like you mentioned, the Stash, parts of the Weekapaw Groove. But none of that's a detriment. Like, none of that is to say that they played a mailed-in show in any sort of way. They just played a really fun tour closer.
I can't imagine anyone walked out of that show disappointed.
No, because it's also 94. We had different expectations then.
Nobody had Twitter. You couldn't be mad.
No,
Yeah.
well, nobody was. There was not like a high chance that you're going to get a 20-minute jam out of Fish in Fall '94.
Yeah.
Yes, they
No.
happened. No, they did not happen on the regular. They were the exception to the rule.
And not
That's a
what
good
people were
point.
necessarily like rating shows being good or not on. You know, it was like
Right.
you could go to a show, like this is what most of the shows were like. So this is what people expected. I also think we just didn't have as many expectations. We were young, you know, the band was new to a lot of people that were in the audience every night. So it was different, you know, so different now. For
Yeah.
better or worse.
Yeah. And this show starts the Fee Rift stash. I mean, it's just so like we've said, you know, so fast and tight. And like Jonathan, that stash is about 11 minutes, but it does get out there, and they're really in '94 they sort of perfected the tension and release in these jams. Right. There's a lot
I,
from '94, as you
I
mentioned,
love
which
this
is
stash.
crazy.
This stash is cool though because it has this like off kilter kind of descending, falling down note thing. It's just really cool how it like kind of breaks down and drops perfectly into the end of the song. I love this stash. It's yeah, they're like getting places quickly. It's cool.
Yeah, the
One of-
other the rest of that set though, to Brian's point, it's sort of like it's fine. Like Lizard Simple. I mean, Divided Sky is great, but there's a long pause
I think
there.
you're underselling it with fine.
Okay.
I think
Okay,
it's
over
good.
sell it. Sell it
It's good.
appropriately.
Lizards is perfectly played Lizards. It's beautiful. Solo is great. Piano solo is great. Sample in Jars, 1994 rock, you know, being done. Great. Divided Sky is beautiful, perfectly played, perfectly paced, not exceptionally long break or anything, you know, out of the ordinary, but it is just standard great. And, you know, can't hate it. Long Boy, fine, good. You know, Paige gets up and sing. Sweet. Chuck does Torture. Rocks. You know, all right, set break. I mean, but that's
It's
94.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, and it brings up an interesting point of like, you know, there's a lot of bands that you listen to where you like you know what their sound is, and you talked about this earlier, Jonathan. That like when you think of Fish in your head, if you don't have any music playing, you hear Fall 1994 Fish, and the
Pretty much.
thing that makes Fish so fascinating is that sound is not the sound of Fish. That is just the sound of one point of Fish, but it does sound like Fish. The thing that we love about Fish is that they take those sounds and then they screw around with them and figure out what else is there. And what else is there may be surprising to them. It's probably surprising to us as a listener. And that mixture of the familiar and this kind of dangerous risk taking is what draws a lot of people in. But at the end of the day, they got to play these songs. They wrote these songs for a reason. And this is the period where they're playing these songs, I would argue, at the best. Like even a year later, they're trying to figure out how to make these songs work in an arena environment. So you get some of them that sound really maximalist. You get areas that are emphasized versus other areas that are not. This is just Fish. You can almost make an argument at this era or like during this period was meant to play in theaters forever. That like their sound just perfectly matches that environment of like a sweaty theater, that like the sound is really nice. It works really well. Everything's balanced out really nicely, and they don't have to work to like fit their sound to an arena. They're just coming out on stage. It sounds like just like plug and play, which it's obviously not, but that's like the appeal you get from listening to it.
Yeah. You guys sold it appropriately. I mean, Divided Sky is a long pause, which, you know, is great. And that like really, it takes up a lot of real estate in the first set, which my wife would be happy about. That's like her favorite song to hear. But, you know, that's a, you know, 15, 16 minutes of rock, which is great. Yeah, it was fun. And I chose the show, so I should be defending it more, but I'm actually just trying to get you guys to defend it. It's more fun.
And also, I want to say the venue, just so we're, you know, on the same page here. Brian's talking about theaters. It's called Civic Auditorium. It's a 3,000 seat concert venue. I mean, it's perfect for that band at that
Beautiful.
time.
So nice.
And
Fee's a really fun opener too.
Were those
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
were those smaller or bigger than where you guys saw them? 3,000.
That was a little bigger. I think mine was like 2,000.
I think mine was a little bigger. It was a small basketball. It's the room that we just
Oh,
saw
the Fairfax.
Goose and Trey in Fairfax.
Yeah.
Formerly the
Got it.
Patriot Center.
Got
Is
it.
an
Got it.
auditorium a theater, or are these different things? I always thought an
An
auditorium, was like the
auditorium is that
long-
room, the theater-shaped room that we used to go to in school when they would have an assembly.
There you go.
The
Once we
theater
stopped,
room.
once we
That's
got to
the
the
official
bigger
term.
school and stopped going to the cafeteria for assembly.
You never made it to the assembly, though. Don't lie. You always just cut off down
in
the
high school,
hallway and
not too
out.
many. No,
Well,
Yeah, mine was like a theater. Mine was a theater. Was where I went to see like Broadway shows and stuff.
okay. So, all right. Well, I have something interesting for those people watching. If anyone would like to see what the place looks like, I can do
Can't
that.
wait. We can't wait.
Can't wait.
I don't think you have that
Cannot
technology.
wait.
Oh, dude,
I'm doubting.
watch
I don't
this.
believe it.
Watch. You'll see in a second.
This is
It's
going
gonna
to
be
make great radio.
awesome. Yep, there it is. Watch this. Boom. There it is.
There it is.
Looks pretty shitty.
Yeah, I was expecting something a
Actually,
lot
it
more
looks-
ornate. It looks
Yeah.
very kind of like basic.
Industrial.
Yeah,
It
weird.
looks like it was built in. Do you have information on what year that was
It was
built?
it was
looks
built
like-
in 1958 and it was designed by Walton Beckett. So
Well, apologies to Mr. Beckett, but I
Settle
don't know
down
how much
there, guy.
design went into it.
it was made
Walton.
of reinforced concrete and combined elements of
You can
theater,
tell
concert
that.
hall,
That's
trade
what it
show,
looks like.
and convention auditorium. So
He was like,
parabolic
we need
pylons support the exterior grand cantilevered canopy, fronting a glass curtain wall, and then some foreign words that I cannot pronounce, so I won't try.
wow.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, I mean it's interesting. There's a lot of concrete, clearly. So there that story checks out.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
mean,
see?
My favorite venue of all time. It has an awful lot of concrete, and it hasn't ruined it at all. So
I mean, I feel like concrete is essential to build a lot of these venues. You know?
It would be hard to do without it. for
I mean, if
sure.
you want to outlaw concrete in concert venues, then I'm going to be sad that I can't go back to Hampton. So
That would be
Well,
tough. That would be
all
really
right.
tough.
So we want
I
to
mean,
we're
we
on a
prefer log cabins,
we're
but
pro
we'll take
concrete.
concrete if we have to.
we're on the search for the world's first concrete-free music venue. We'll be there. We'll do an Osiris live from there.
Can I say something about tour finales just in general? Because I was thinking about
Yes.
this.
do it.
Because my thought about this show is that it's a good show. I don't want to undersell it. I don't want to oversell it. I want to be right in the realistic zone. And I was thinking about Fish in tour finales. It's not really where they excel. And I went through from 1992 to today. There have been 58 tours. This is not counting New Year's runs or like the Island Tour, which was not a tour, it's a run. It's not counting like Vegas 04 or anything like that. This is like a proper tour, like, 8 to 65 shows, whatever it is. It's 58 of those. I went through, there are 13 of those 58 that I would personally recommend to you or anyone to listen to. I'm not going
That's
to
not
list
many.
through it unless someone debate or demands that I list through it all, because I have it written down. But my point is more, this band seems to excel like in that 2/3 to 3/4 mark of a tour, where they really kind of know
Mhm.
what the sound is that they're playing with. They know what the technology is that's working. You got your, or you've got your like wah pedal, or you've got the clavinet, whatever it may be,
You're really good at that, Brian. That sound.
He is. It's uncanny.
Yeah, it's like kind of
practiced.
weird that you can do it. You practice. Now we know what
Um,
Brian does, like in the shower. He's just making a Fishman effects. Like,
But like my point is like, maybe you, the listener, would say, no, there's actually been 18 really good ones, or there's been 26. I don't know. The point is like, they don't knock the tour finale out of the park. They're not the band to be like, tonight's the last night of tour. We got to give everything that we've got because all these people have been paying to come to these shows. And if they walk away disappointed, they're going to think it was a bad tour. I feel like the band is closed out with a lot of like just okay shows throughout their history on a tour, and people have come back the next tour and they've never really hung that on the hat of like, you have to play a really great show on this last night. So to me, like, it kind of goes back to my thought about this show. This is a celebration almost of the band without as much concern that the audience needs to hear something. We're going to play the songs that you want to hear. We're going to play some really good classic songs, but we're not going to come out and try to like blow everyone's brains out because we're coming back in a couple weeks and we're going to play a great New Year's run with what some people may say is the best Phish jam ever, just like 2 weeks from now.
Some
you
people
know, I'm
say
not-
a lot of stuff.
People do. RJ in particular.
I just said
no.
some stuff.
I don't want to
did.
dispute what you said. In fact, I might support it with this, which is to say, if you look back at 12/9/94, Mesa Amphitheater, Mesa, Arizona, it's got a big old foam. It's got a big old tweezer. It's got a run like an antelope where they do the Force theme from Star Wars in the jam and suck the deer
Mm.
shit from the side of this hole. I mean, there's a blowing it out kind of set, right? So, plus they did Foreplay Long Time in the encore.
Yeah, this
Just-
is kind of
just
a
rad.
sick show.
So that backs your position, I think, Brian.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I want to just two quick things about tour closers to follow up. First of all, when you all hear this, those of you who are watching live, of course, tomorrow is the tour closer of Undermine Season 4 and of Phish's Fall 97 tour.
Uh-oh.
So keep that in mind when you listen to that podcast and the show. Um, Brian, are your tour closer perspectives affected by your most recent tour closing?
I was thinking
attendance?
the same thing. I was thinking the same exact thing.
Brian
I didn't
actually
wanna- I didn't
secretly
wanna be
hates
mean.
sticks.
Partially.
Not
I was
that,
thinking more
not that
of
tour
Alpine.
closer. I meant
Yeah.
the closer.
Oh.
Alpine Valley.
Oh man, that was a show. Every time I thought they had it, every time
just slipped out of their hands.
slipped right out of their hands.
Well,
Great seats though, great seats.
let me ask a question about this because I think it's also like kind of like the New Year's run thing, you know, like the night before the night, like Jonathan, you were saying about the night before this, and you know, like the
Yes.
30th is always
The
it's
best.
always the best. I mean, it's always great.
Until this
Um,
year.
Shut your
Yeah,
mouth.
it's true. 30th is going to be just them just sitting on
So
stage
ordinary.
without
No,
instruments.
it's fucking not. It's gonna be so good.
Can I ask you guys while I have you here? Why do you think that is? I mean, I've thought a lot about this over the years. Why do you think that is like such a thing for Phish? And also like in show business, how is that acceptable? And I just preface that by saying like, it is one of my favorite things about Phish. But like when you think about, to preface one other thing, Phish is not sports, okay? But
No, it's not.
but if you're a professional sports team and you're competing at the highest level and you have this incredible conference championship game to get yourself to the Super Bowl, and you're the Buffalo Bills, sorry, Lon Memo, and you just crush it, like destroy your team. I think that they won one of their AFC conference championship games, like 58-3 or something. And then you lose in the Super Bowl. Nobody is like, yeah, but the AFC title game, that was it. That was the game. Everyone's always focused.
Because it's not
on,
about winning and losing, Brian.
No, I know, and
Everybody
I want to
wins,
get away
Fish.
from like the
It's
sports metaphor
everybody
because
wins.
you're absolutely right. My point is just like in professional whatever, to not hit it out of the park on the night that you're quote supposed to, but you're known for your best shows are always these random offshoot nights, maybe the night preceding it. It's just such a crazy thing to put to hang your hat on. Why do you guys think that is like a part of Phish and like their legacy?
I mean, I don't
Phish-
think that they want that necessarily to be the way it
Mm.
is. I think that's just the way it is because of
Yeah.
things that, we've talked about before, but just being that there's so much fussiness and extra preparation and technical shit that goes into the gag, and like there's extra people around, and it's, it's like rehearsing, and it's just there's a lot, right? Whereas the night before, it's like this is our last night to do whatever the hell we want, And I think that also you can never really plan when these things are going to be like extra special.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that fully.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would say to your question about when is this acceptable in show business or whatever? When is anything Fish does acceptable in show business or whatever? You
Good
know,
point.
What is acceptable in showbiz anyway? Show business is crazy.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
no, but like if you're in the touring company of Hamilton, every night is supposed to kill. The reality is not every night's going to kill, and it's not necessarily predictable which one is going to kill. But everybody should be walking out of there going, "That was great,"
That's
whether
so
they
different. You know
know
why?
that the next night is better or not.
Right.
They don't
But
know.
it's scripted, so it's totally different because it's not improvisational.
It's
right? It's
true,
not
but
being
the
created in the
energy
moment.
is not scripted, and
Yeah, but
and
energy, you have to deliver at a certain level, right? If you're like a Broadway performer,
well,
and Fish is
that's kind of to
delivering
the
at that
point.
level, right? But they're doing something harder to create art that you're making up in the moment is harder. It's harder.
But that's again, that's my point, is that Fish doesn't, the rules of entertainment don't apply to Fish.
Yeah, I
They
agree.
they just make it happen. And I think that, you know, kind of to double down on what you said, Megan, about, you know, the night with the gag, the New Year's show or the Halloween show or whatever is, you know, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of other stuff built into that. And so the night before, they're going into it with none of that pressure on that moment, but also, you know, the opportunity to make sure this one is good too. Because tomorrow's going to be great. We're going to have all the thing and the stuff, and everybody's going
Yeah.
to walk out of there going, "Wow!" So tonight,
Yeah.
let's just kill it. And so they do. That said, I want to talk more about this show because I like it and I have more to say about the
Okay,
music.
so
that
we're not
happened
going to
on
just
12,
debate
1094.
art and sports. We'll get back to it.
Yeah.
Can I hear RJ's
I'm not
take?
here
on
to
that question?
debate
No,
sports. Yeah, no,
before we
please.
get into set too.
No, it's okay.
RJ's tired.
I want
No,
to
I don't have
reiterate,
much to.
this
I
is,
don't have
this is
much
one of
to
my
add.
favorite things about Fish. So this is not like in any sort of way a slight. Like this is why I listen to this band.
Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't have anything. These are like the kind of things that are not. You know, we have no idea, right? We don't know anything. I mean, not that that should prevent us from talking about it, but I don't know. You know, I do think they. I don't know. I think like the New Year's thing seems pretty self-explanatory in the way that Megan described it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd think like, I guess the thing that this comment kind of makes me think about, right? It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't even think they know, right?
Well,
I
it's
think they're just like,
magic. It's magic.
The real
It's not
secret
just
is
art. It's magic. You know, it doesn't happen with a formula. Some
Yeah.
nights it hits, some nights it doesn't. Some nights they want it to hit and it does. Some nights
Yeah.
they're just playing a fun show. Like, you know, there's so many variables that go into art like this, and so much of it is also just, you know, magic.
Yep.
Which is why
real
we
secret
chase
is
it.
Paige only likes round numbers. So the 31st is not a day he really enjoys playing.
Fuck, Jonathan, you're not supposed to
So-
tell people that. That's like the insider secret.
Well, and I think to a point you made, Jonathan, that I think is really important with regards to this is the fact that like they're doing something in show business that a lot of people wouldn't have the spine to do, which is
Yeah.
walk on stage and allow things that we have no idea no idea that these things could happen to happen. A lot of people
Yep.
and a lot of artists and a lot of performers and entertainers have to go on stage with the knowledge that like this is how things are going to go. Otherwise, we're not giving people the show that they have paid for. We're not giving them the show that they've expected. And to bring it back to this show, I can still do that. Something like the Weekapaw groove that goes off the rails into this
Yeah.
really weird, like kind of dystopian little jam segment that, to quote Scott Bernstein from today's Undermine, it just goes on for one extra minute, but that extra minute is so important and so essential to the show. You have no idea what's happening. Then out of nowhere, you're kind of in a hold your head up jam, but you're not really in full hold your head up land. And then Fishman starts singing Why Don't We Do It in the Road, which is just like one of the more obscure Beatles songs to bring back at this point in time. And then you're back in a full on hold your head up. I mean, it's the type of thing that, you know, it probably won't make a best of fall 94 playlist, but it will be the type of thing that when you hear it, you hear again, like those little snapshots of what makes fall 94 so remarkable.
It really does. Um, I mentioned it, I think, earlier. The Simple, which opens this set, is the one on a live one.
Yeah.
Um, the
Yeah, why
Maze
do you think they
is,
chose this one?
I
Why
think
do you
it's
think they
because
chose
it's
this
like a
one?
perfect standalone version,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Mm,
one that comes
Michael.
out of a Mike song or whatever, which they did a number of those. That way they didn't have to put Mike's song
You get
on
the
there.
slide down
Yeah.
to you get the slide down the E string, and then like it fades out. I was listening to it yesterday.
yeah,
There's like a slight pause before Maze starts up, and it's the perfect thing that if you're making the record, you just cut that and then you're good.
it sounds clean. It's a really
Yeah.
satisfying Simple too. There's like this like driving force to it. This like galloping feel. It's really, really good. It's beautiful.
I want to comment on the Gaiuti because it is just beautiful. Chef's kiss. And I saw the second one at the second show of tour which was my first show, and you can hear the way it has come together on the stage over the course of these. What'd you say it was, RJ? 48 shows or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's outstanding. It is really what this song just they nailed it. And then I think they kind of put it away for a little bit, but that's too bad. But here I think they did a great job, and then the set just rages. It's a total Mike's Hydrogen Weekapog.
Yeah.
So that's good. We want that. Got some Fishermen, Poor Heart, only just the one kind of Poor Heart, and then Great Slave.
Yeah.
I mean not
that,
like peak write letters to your mom kind of Slave, but a really good one.
they played Gaiuti 18 times in those 48 shows, so they were really they were getting
flog the
lot.
new ones.
Yeah.
And if you just look back at the last 10 days, they play at the 26th, 28th of November, the 1st, 3rd, 7th, 9th, and 10th of December. And then we'll play it
Wow.
again on 12/29/94 before
I
pushing
think they
it off
wanted to
until-
put it on the record, and
Yeah.
we're trying to get one.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
That's
then
not,
they didn't,
Mm.
and they revisited it and revamped it a little before it came back.
Brian,
there's a strange part of me that wishes they would still play it this way. Like
Oh
the
yeah,
pauses in it and like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
silence
I
as they're
like it
going
too.
through it.
yeah,
I can imagine it'd be really
slower.
hard to play now, but like that like slow build up of the guitar before the lyrics come in, I was kind of on the edge of my seat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really good
love it.
feeling.
yeah,
Me
it's
too.
nuts. Brian, on the 11/23/97 episode of Undermine, you guys talked about night to night repeats, and this is the 12/9 and 12/10. Coyote is one of them, but it doesn't happen very often. So you get these like, I mean, if you're on tour, you're gonna see a lot of Coyote.
Yeah, I mean, this is a song that is in the regular rotation at this point in time. I wonder because
I
it
don't
takes up
remember
a lot
anyone
of set
complaining.
time. I know. I'm
Probably
wondering
not.
like what people's thoughts were. Nobody complained in 1994. We've learned that already. People didn't start complaining until 2.0.
Also, were people going to like tons and tons of shows
I didn't
in
say at
1994? I don't know.
Yeah, there were definitely
It-
people who were doing
going to a
big
lot.
stretches out there in
But
'94.
if you're-
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I get if you're doing 48 shows, there's a good chance that
Yeah,
not many people are going to see all of them. You know what I
shouldn't
mean?
go to
Like,
all
it's not
the-
like
you shouldn't
it's not
do
like
that. I
now, right?
I think
Right.
there's
when
many
you-
reasons why you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do wonder what
I
that
would
was
go
like
back in
at this
time and do it
point.
in a heartbeat. I wish I had. I honestly,
Yeah,
I don't
right?
regret not doing it, but I wish I had. I wasn't doing shit that fall, man. I should have been on Fish Tour.
I guess I wonder like this is they didn't tour the fall prior. The 2 falls prior they play Northeastern college theaters run throughout their home turf, if you will. You hear all these stories about people who did their final or rearranged finals so that they could see as many December 1995 shows as possible. Same with 1997. 94 and 96 is interesting though because they end the tours out west, and so they go out west at that point in time to spread their fan base. But I wonder how many like show to show people there were going from if you look at just December, you're going from Salem, Oregon, Davis, California, San Jose, Chico, down to Santa Barbara, San Diego, Mesa, Santa Monica. Like you could do this if you're in college in California and just kind of go up and down
Oh,
the
yeah.
coast at that point in time. But you're probably not getting a lot of Northeasterners flying out during peak finals season to go to these shows.
Again, I
No.
wasn't doing shit. I should have been there.
Well,
You should
yeah.
have been in a van driving around,
By the
following
river.
fish.
Just if you ever get to redo that, pick me up. I was only 15,
Next
so I
time.
don't know. We'd have to make up
That'd
a
have been
story,
weird.
but
I was in 4th grade doing everything I could to get a Sega Genesis. Like that's all
You
I
were
cared
just pick
about
Brian
at
up
that
Sega
point in my
Genesis. Well, we'd pick you up, corrupt you.
life.
Can you
That would've
imagine
been
all
nice.
in '94, all of us at different ages and being like
I
generally
kind of love this. Just like
generally
Brian in the
teenagers
back,
and
like
Brian's Brian's in 4th grade.
Brian's in the back, like eating a peanut butter and jelly, like like,
I got to call my mom.
Megan and I, the adults in the room,
Yeah.
which at that
You're
time,
in
if you
charge.
looked at me and thought I was an adult, you were making mistakes.
I was wearing like bells on my ankles. Jonathan be driving. I'd be sitting shotgun because I'd be like the second oldest, so I'd get shotgun. RJ, you'd be in charge of babysitting Brian. It just makes so much sense.
So good. It's so good.
Can we get an animated version of this? Like, I'm ready to
Yeah.
write the pilot. Who got there?
Where's
Wants
our
to
Yeah, I
intern
was-
who can do this? I don't
I know.
know. Can we
I
just
was
do this
really
right
in-
now?
Perfect. I was like into smoking a lot of cigarettes then, so I could like, Brian would like pack my packs for me, and then I could like smoke cigarettes out the window. It'd be great. Pop our tapes
Okay.
in.
I
Should
didn't
we
have my
talk about
first
this?
cigarette until May of 2001.
Oh, we could have changed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
it could have really affected your life.
I bought my first CD this fall, though.
There you go.
You want to know
Nice.
what it was? It's
Um,
the CD of bargain bins right now. REM
It-
Monster.
Oh,
okay.
that's good. I think you've told me that before. I should have remembered.
You
Should
should.
we talk about this
You
encore?
should've.
Yeah, it's so great. It's one of
This
my
is pretty
favorite
special.
fish moments. And I remember having this tape, and really, like, this is the only thing about this show that really stuck out to me. So there
What
are
is the
four,
really unique bit?
Yeah.
4 shows, 4 times played. They actually played it twice. This Chuck Dust Torture reprise twice at Deer Creek 2000. So 4 shows they've played at the set. This is the first, and it's just great. Like you said earlier, Jonathan, or maybe you, Brian, about like playing for the crew and not the necessarily the fans. This is clearly the capstone to that, and I just love hearing like the thank you to all the crew and the individual shout outs, and also like the Chalk Dust Torture reprise is a great song. So I feel like maybe they'll bring it back. I mean, it was last played in 2019. Maybe they'll bring it back.
I like that they sang Amy Skelton's name in it.
Yeah.
As
instead of
Chalk
the-
Dust Torture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so good.
We
Really
used
phenomenal.
that to introduce her on episode 1, season 1 of Undermine.
We did.
Just fades
Oh,
right into
yeah.
that. It's very nice.
That was so fun. Have
I
you
love
you
when
had
they're
heard
singing
that?
too. They're like,
You had heard that,
"Chocolate
Brian, though.
torture."
But
Yeah, this was the only part of this show that I'd heard.
Mm.
And it was only because when I was first getting into fish, one of the first shows I was told I had to get was Deer Creek 2000,
mhm.
which is still, I think that's a brilliant show. And then at some point, I think whenever the Relisten app appeared, I was going around just trying to figure out like setlist oddities and going back and doing my due diligence. It didn't happen because I didn't trade tapes because I was 9 years old when these shows were happening.
Lame excuse.
Very, very lame.
Seriously.
I didn't have an older brother. All right. I
Charlie
discovered
Dirksen would have
everything
done
on
a
my own.
B&P for you. You just had to, take the initiative.
I just had to figure out how to email him at that point.
Yeah.
Do you guys love
No.
this as much as I do?
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. It's
I think
so
you're-
great.
This song has such a special element because it's so rare, but I would not mind them ditching the rareness because the hook of this song is so like this is an earworm. Every time you hear them like the Deer Creek 2000 version where Fishman yells like, "Come on, everybody sing along." And then everyone comes in with Chalk Dust Torture. It's just, you talk about like why this band couldn't have been a pop band. Like this is a freaking pop song.
Yeah, if they had ended the album with this, it would have changed the world.
Totally different.
Their world.
We might not even be here. Not any of us.
No. We would have gone on Motor.
I gotta say
Right.
that
We've been more hardcore.
our friend Matt Higgins said that they did bust this out in 2019, 12/8/2019. That was the first time played since that July 11th, 2000 show. So 524 shows. I was looking at
Small
this.
gap.
Another tour closer. This Charleston 19. 28 songs were played at that last Charleston show in 2019. It's a lot of
concert.
songs. It was a lot. I mean, it's a lot of
Oh
songs.
yeah, it's a lot of songs.
Anyway, back
People
to
have talked about that show before.
People have opinions about that show.
It's true.
Yeah, they do.
Well, as a Chalk Dust Torture reprise and encore, that should give it something.
Yeah.
Slight
Something.
cachet.
It
think
kind of
it'll
needs to
come
be in
back.
that encore slot, but I feel like this would be a really good show opener.
Hmm.
It would be kind of one of those that like the
Hmm.
place would just lose its mind.
Yeah,
Opening with a reprise. I mean, Fish has done that. I've seen it.
Yeah.
A couple of times. I've seen it.
So why not?
yeah.
Wow. All right.
Now this is
Well-
like a good call for like my pick 5 for like the tour closer. Now I feel like.
Yeah,
I like it.
New Year's Eve, set 1, slot 1. Chalk Dust Torture
Boom.
reprise.
CDT reprise.
After you guys
Mm.
got the Chalk Dust
Mm.
Torture on the 30th, we'll get the reprise the next night.
All right.
If that's what you say, Jonathan.
I'm writing the set list now. You didn't know that?
Oh right.
All right. Well, what else? What else about this show?
Well, and then
Any-
the show ends with good times, bad times, which is
Yeah.
just a great way to end the show.
Yep.
Telling, I think.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about like they take 2 weeks off, they come back for the New Year's run, and I don't think
I
they
saw the
sound
next
like
show
a,
after this.
you did. I don't think they sound like a different band, but they do like there is always that slightly different sound between a winter tour, fall tour ending, and the band that comes back for New Year's. Do you have any like obviously we don't know, but any thoughts about like the subtle evolution that happens from this fall tour to the New Year's run ahead of a 6-month break leading into the 1995 summer tour?
I think it has a lot to do with sleep and how much they've gotten. At least in this case, I think there are other years where there are bigger jumps or drop offs or what have you. A lot of people I know in '97 were really disappointed by like the 12/28 show after the fall tour. I don't think that 94's 12/28 show falls off. I think it really maintains the line more or less. If you compare it just to this show right here, and I'm pointing at my other computer screen if anybody watching is wondering, if you compare it just to this show, I think it might be a little more hype, a little hotter, but I don't think it's substantively different. I think other than they're fresh and rested and ready to rip it up.
Yeah. I mean, this year in particular, maybe some 95 too. One of the interesting things to me is the disparity between like the jams and the not jams. Like there's really nothing in between, I mean, there's like Reba, Stash, You Enjoy Myself, Divided Sky are like always going to be 10 to 13 minutes, but you're either getting like a bunch of 6-minute songs or you're getting like a 40-minute song. It's
Yeah,
not like there's not
that's a
like
good point.
jams that are 15, 18. It's just like they're either all in or they're just like playing a rock show. I don't know. That ends in, I guess that sort of ends in 97, but I guess you see signs of it before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they've had a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, this is a pretty big New Year's for them, right? They're going to go play in Philly, and then they're going to go, which they do an amazing job, and then they're going to go to New York and do the late show, and then they're going to do their first night headlining at MSG. It's a big deal. They've got to be excited about that. And like,
You skipped the
Yeah.
most important part.
oh, really? What was it? I know. There was one night that I may have forgotten in a certain very small state where something.
Some
kind
of us haven't
important
forgotten,
happened.
but do carry on.
Yes. Okay. So Philly, Providence, then New York. But yeah, there was a lot going on. And I mean, I think that like they were probably excited about it.
I have another
Yeah.
question for you all. Can we
Yes,
stay for one more question?
I would like
'Cause
that.
maybe my last question will lead to 2 more questions. So,
It's getting
But,
close, so, no.
there's always this like conversation around this period in fish history of like, when did they go from being this little secret that you kind of found out about by word of mouth, and then you discovered other people either at shows or on the internet or at college, to a point where like by the end of the 90s, you know, they're playing 80 to 100,000 person festivals, and while the pop aspect is not even a part of it, but like they're a bigger band. They're commanding more money. They're being written about in like Rolling Stone in ways that they're not at this point in time. As I was listening to this, I was kind of thinking that this is like the end of that, because like 2 weeks from now, they're going to play Madison Square Garden. They're going to play the Boston Garden. Like that's how they're going to close out their year. And a year prior, they close it out with Portland, Maine and Worcester, Mass. Would you say that this is like the last show of Fish being this little secret, or would you put that at like some other point in their history?
Everybody
Wow.
I knew was into Fish. When I got to college in 92, Fish and the Beastie Boys were the most played artists in the hall
In 92.
in 92.
Wow.
Well,
We heard a lot of Junta and Check Your Head.
Interesting. Okay.
So
It
think
wasn't like
that's-
that where I went to college. I mean, there was like a lot of us that like Fish, but we were definitely, and I went in 95, we were definitely like the minority. Like we were like, you know, the weird little hippies.
Well, I think so I think there's two different things. First of all, the Incredible Perp says, "I've missed Brian's final questions."
So have
There-
we.
There's a reason why the episodes that Megan and I do are like 38 to 47 minutes, and then when all four of us are here, you know, we're pushing an hour. That's how it goes. You need some final questions. So I think there's two separate things. One is popularity and like word of mouth, right? Which, Jonathan, is kind of what you're saying. But to Brian's point, that like if you look at it by the numbers, it's almost certainly true. Like the next
Yeah.
summer they start playing, starting with the Boise State show at 6795, which is like a 13,000 person. Like they just start playing huge venues. Like they don't go to small venues ever again, really. I mean, they do, you know, for little
One-off shows here and
one-offs,
there.
but
Yeah.
95, you're getting every big shed that summer. I mean, and then, you know, the fall is mostly big venues also. I don't know. It's interesting. So I think if you look at it by that, like the crowd size and the venue size, this is probably the last time you're going to get to see them in a 3,000 person venue
Concrete.
Yeah.
you know,
concrete.
for a long time.
It did feel
Um,
that way too. I mean, I feel like, you know, I learned about them in like 93, and I felt like I was just learning about something that not everybody knew about. And then by 95, it felt like, yeah, a lot more people. It just felt different, I guess, because of the size of the venues they were playing in. It felt like they were just as big as the Dead, which they weren't, but they became that way quickly.
Well, and also, sorry, Megan, I do want to say that just I'm looking quickly at 95, and in case anyone wants to get mad at me, they did play the Austin Music Hall in Austin, Texas, is pretty small, and I think like the Palace Theater in New Orleans. But so there are exceptions, but I think generally
Like out of
they're-
market places.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
Yeah.
Market.
Aren't going to test.
And they're
them
one-offs.
to play.
I just want to say that there is nothing small in Texas, even if it doesn't have a large capacity.
Well, and even when they go back there now, like Grand Prairie, what, like 35, 4,500, something like
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
maybe big, but it's a modern theater. It's definitely not a concrete theater. It definitely has better aesthetics.
There's
than
concrete in there, I
Pittsburgh.
guarantee it. Under that rug.
There's got to be somewhere. I gotta say, dude, this is reminding me just a little bit of the conversations we've been having on Undermine. But like they played the Palace, you know, that was my first show, 10/28/95, and that place held 25,000 people. So you go from like
Jesus.
Yeah.
3,000 to 25,000 within 10 months. I mean, it's
Yeah, like where you saw
pretty
them
wild.
in Detroit was like a couple hours from where I saw them a year before in a
Yeah.
2,000 person theater.
right. Yeah. So
nuts.
Goose fans who are listening, just watch out, because you know 2023 is going to be the last year, and then suddenly they're going to be playing the Palace of Auburn Hills, which got knocked down, but they'll find a place like it.
RJ,
So-
don't make these goose tickets harder to get. Jesus.
I'm hearing a lot of complaints from people on the East Coast. Meanwhile, I've got them playing 10 minutes up the road
Yeah.
this
Aw.
weekend.
And that's
I'm
going to be
really,
nice.
really excited.
I know. We're
Uh,
not jealous. It's fine.
It's winter dicks, if you will.
It is. And
I-
wait.
Oh God.
Oh, sorry. One last thing, Jonathan.
Cold
Ryan
day.
Storm has joined the chat, and Ryan Storm and his Storm Sound group of podcasts, including Almost Always, Always There, Always Almost There podcast,
There
which
it
is
is.
about Goose, has officially joined the Osiris family. So
Yeah.
thanks,
so
Ryan, and
awesome.
welcome.
Right
welcome
on.
to the.
Welcome.
So we'll have more of this cross promo. Anyway, sorry, Jonathan, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say that they kept ping ponging in size. When I saw them in 12/1/95, it was a 7,000 some seat venue.
Okay.
So it wasn't all big, but really, if going back to Brian's original question, I think I want to lean towards that New Year's '93 run as probably being the line. You have, Bender Arena and New Haven Veterans Memorial Coliseum as the openers for that run. And I mean, these places were small and not big. I mean, DC, I guess, arguably a big market, but it ain't no New York City. So sorry, DC people. Oh wait, I'm one. And they and as you mentioned, Brian, Portland, Maine. This is not big time. The next year, it's Philly. It's a city that's not quite Boston because they go to Boston for New Year's, and New York freaking City at MSG. That's big time market. So
time.
I think that's at 93 because after that they were hitting the arenas. They played slightly bigger summer places, and they were on the surge. That's where the upswell is really going.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
I mean, it's an
Makes sense.
interesting conversation about wherever that line is, but I think it's somewhere around this period in time where
Mhm.
they're going to go from, the irony is you can I've mentioned to my coworkers that I like fish, which is always a mistake. I don't know why I keep repeating it, but
Yeah.
and they have no idea who I'm talking about. They're like, oh, I'm like, they're kind of like the Grateful Dead. Like, that's still like the line that I use. It's just like, just
the Grateful what? It's like a metal
right,
band,
and then they're like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, it's a bunch of hippies.
They're like, oh, the clothing company.
But like, they still have that ability to kind of, you have no idea who they are unless you're like wanting to search them out. But around this time was, with the internet not being ever present in our lives, you still had to kind of find out about them either in college or word of mouth or an older brother or something like that.
Well, I guess this leaves us with a very, very obvious question, which is, Brian, are you going to come back again, or is this like a one-time deal, or what?
Yeah. What's up, Brian?
I'm leaving that with you guys. You guys know I love talking fish with you, and I will come with stats and points and slightly controversial opinions, and I will be back if you'll have me.
We'll have you.
Yes. The
I'm sorry.
answer is
Should I have
yes.
played it cool and thought about it a minute?
I know. Like, you just like played our hand right away.
Yeah, no.
We're not ashamed. We love you, Brian.
We've been
guys.
saving your chair for you.
Yeah, it's been empty this whole time.
I had a chair this time. Oh my goodness.
You're sitting in it right
Yeah.
there.
Yep. Amazing. Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you, Megan, for leading us through this spirited discussion. It was fun.
This is really fun. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you'll be back, Brian. And this is like just like old times. It felt great.
I'm so
And,
happy to be here.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. Should we thank Sunset Lake CBD, RJ?
I think we should. Do you want me to do it? Do you want me to thank them?
Yeah, thanks.
Do it.
Okay. So thank you to Sunset Lake CBD for sponsoring HF Pod. You all have heard about them, but we'll just tell you that their line of smokable hemp products are for the old deadhead or the young fish fan. I'm thinking back to our road trip from 1994.
I want someone to draw
We're
a
like-
picture of this for us. It sounds so good.
Lord.
Like,
I need to
we're-
dig up a picture of
Megan
what
and
my hair
Jonathan are
looked
the,
like
are the
as a
old deadheads.
9-year-old.
Brian and
We're
I.
the
Brian
old
is the
deadhead.
young fish fan searching for a mellow body high. That's probably what it is. But
Yeah. And a Sega Genesis.
Smoking CBD has all the benefits of high THC cannabis without some of the side effects. They had 9 different strains from this year's harvest. They have a lot of really cool stuff. We haven't talked a lot about the the gummies that they have. I mean, they have tons of gummies, but the ones that they have that I know Megan likes that have melatonin, they're
This is
perfect
true.
for sleep. I took some tincture today when I took a nap. Just you got to do
Wait, you
it.
took
So
a nap today?
yeah,
He's
yeah.
a professional.
I mean,
So
not long.
jealous.
Well,
Not long.
okay. I'm just gonna say, well, I'll finish this ad read in a second, but I'll just tell you that I went to bed at 1:30 and was woken up by like my kids at 6:30. So like that's just not enough sleep. I guess
No.
that's how you're feeling,
That's
Megan.
the way it
but
goes.
That is
That's how it
I'm
goes.
feeling.
But aside from my sleep habits, we do know that all the flower from Sunset Lake CBD is grown, cured, and trimmed by their farmers. They have a farm to table approach. They get you great pricing on premium CBD, and you get the packages really fast. It's the holiday season, and give your friends or family some Sunset Lake CBD. Go to sunsetlakecbd.com and use the code HFPod for 20% off all products. I bet that like your friends and family will like you for sending them a few CBD products from Sunset Lake. So everyone should do that. That's all.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
It's a
plan.
great gift.
Perfect. All right. It worked on these three. I hope it works on everybody else.
Mission accomplished. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see everyone next week. Thanks for listening and thanks for being in the comments. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.